Down. That's the one. Okay. I'm going to cover SPF, DKIM, and DMARC records. But first, we're going to cover why you, or what we're going to cover. Well, I'll show you what we're going to cover. Get started here. I'm going to tell you why you should care about this, what the records are, who needs to use them, hint, hint, it's you and everybody else, what happens or is already happening if you don't use these records, how to deploy them, how to check your status, and what it does not fix, which is a short list that's growing as people ask more and more questions. I'm like, oh yeah, it doesn't fix that. Going the wrong way here. There we go. Okay. Email delivery is critical to business. If you can't put messages in people's inboxes, that's a problem. This helps fix that or maintain it. Your domain reputation is becoming more and more important as things move forward. It's not just IP-based reputation for blacklists now. Domain names are also attributed to spam scores now. So you need to protect your domain. You cannot get reporting back on servers that are not under your control. So using DMARC, you start getting reports back on emails that are sent on your behalf from equipment that's not yours. So that's something totally new as of DMARC that you can get done. You can get that information without having to log into somebody else's server. If you're a consultant, there's billable hours here. It can be a big project if it's a large company. Some of the larger companies that have in-house teams, it's taking years to complete DMARC because I'll show you why as we go through. There's a lot of stuff to cover. Everybody needs to be doing this because it prevents fraud. If you do this for your domain and you do it right, nobody can spoof emails as you. And that would be nice if all legitimate domains would do that. There are very few experts out there, so you can become an expert and people will turn to you for advice. It's good consulting, you can be the hero in your organization, and if you're a pen tester or social engineer, you need to know how this works so that you can know if and when you can spoof someone's email, their domain for email purposes. My name is Caleb Christopher. I'm the Director of Technology at Challenger Sports and Challenger Teamwear, based out of Lenexa. I also work with a company called Cino Limited that does vulnerability assessments out of New York. InfosecSite.com is my website. You can find all these slides, etc. there for free. So, SPF record tells the world who can send as you. It's effectively a whitelist. You're saying this IP address and this IP address can send as me and nobody else, basically. DKIM is a digital signature and it tells whether or not you sent it. And DMARC tells what to do about the answers to SPF and DKIM. Does it align? And it gives you metrics back. So whoever's receiving mail from you sends you a report at the end of the day to say what's going on. So when you send a message, it leaves your server and hits, it leaves my server and hits you.com. Your server, before putting it anywhere, does a check. It looks up my DNS based on the from header in the email. It looks at my DNS. It looks for, is there an SPF record? And should I, based on that SPF information, should I accept, reject, or accept but mark this message? Looks up DKIM, is the signature valid? And then it asks, based on the DMARC policy, what should I do with this message if it's not aligned with SPF and DKIM? You can apply no action, you can quarantine it, which means spam folder, or you can reject it outright. So that's your three options. That's in a nutshell. As long as you understand this, we can move forward and you'll be able to follow along. Sender Policy Framework, SPF, it answers this question. Is a given IP address, and all host names resolve back to an IP address, so that's basically what you're doing, authorized to send mail for your domain? The answers, yes, pass, no, fail, or soft fail means maybe. I'm not sure what I'm still working on things. Basically is what that means. A little bit more. Now, this is a DNS lookup, so I look up you.com, I find your SPF record, and you have an inclusion for underscore SPF.google.com. Then my lookup of your SPF record makes me look up Google's SPF record. So you can include other companies' SPF records. Ultimately, you get a list of IP addresses that are authorized senders. That's what happens. But if you work with a lot of third parties, MailChimp, SurveyMonkey, etc., all these different third parties, you're limited to 10 lookups, so you have to find a way to make sure that you don't overload it or you break SPF. Record is limited in size, so you can't just put a whole butt-ton of IPs in a whole long giant string. You sometimes have to break it up into SPF.yourdomain, SPF1.yourdomain, SPF2.yourdomain if you want to do a big long list. It does not survive forwarding. If if you receive a message and then forward it on from you, if you receive a message from me and then you forward it on as if it was from you, from your IP address, it does not appear to come from me and it will fail SPF, which is where DKIM comes in.
So when you say 10 lookups, do you mean 10 jumps from like an include or 10 includes in the record?
In nested lookups. So if I have an include that has nested includes, they all count towards that. So I can have one include that has 9 more underneath it, and that's all 10.
Name lookups. Maybe name, IPs are fine.
Yeah, IPs are fine, but the IPs is where the 512 bytes comes in, because you can have a big long list, but it maxes out on the return traffic. So DKIM survives forwarding if it's done right. All the major providers can forward and preserve DKIM signatures. What it does is it authenticates with a digital signature. It identifies, it does not prevent message modification, it just identifies message modification so that it breaks the signature. And it can uniquely validate multiple senders. So your AWS or Amazon SES service and your MailChimp and your G Suite or your Office 365, they can all independently sign messages so you can tell where the actual source of that message was. And then, so that's the coverage of those basic things. DMARC is where we're going to focus our time here. Domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. The reporting is the keyword here. It's my favorite. This is an action policy, again, for messages that are not aligned with both SPF and DKIM. It's important to note that if a message passes SPF and fails DKIM, no DMARC policy is applied, and vice versa. If it fails SPF but passes with a valid signature, no DMARC policy is applied. DMARC is what to do with stuff that fails your tests. It also allows for a percent-based application, so you can say reject 50% of messages that don't align with my other policies, and it sends back a report to you at the end of the day. So when Gmail receives an email, or 100,000 emails on behalf of mydomain.com to its users, and when Outlook 365 and Yahoo, they all receive mail on behalf of my domain, they send back a report at the end of the day that says, hey, we received 50,000 messages from these different IP addresses. This is these are the sources we received on behalf of you. The adoption rate for DMARC is, so here blue is bad, it's kind of dark, but 42% as of 2016, which is pretty low, and that's global organizations, not mom and pop shops, so it's way lower in general than that. And the DMARC adoption does not necessarily mean they've got a fully 100% reject compliant DMARC policy, they just have one. So this number needs to rise, and you guys can help make that happen. The verticals, I'm going to rush through this a little bit. Social media is the highest vertical because they're prone to spoofing a lot. People just click on those messages like crazy. That's just what happens. So they realize the importance of DMARC. I talked to somebody from Twitter a couple of weeks ago who let me see his DMARC dashboard. That was cool. Healthcare, really low. Banking, etc., really low on the lists. Really disappointing to me. Did I lose my... Okay. I don't know. My computer. Windows 10. Thank you.
Oh no.
Yeah. Real sucky.
Is it forcing an update?
I don't know. I rebooted it this morning just because. Yeah, we're hung up. We shall see. Let's get this started back up. Yeah, restore my session. Anyway, you guys can be the heroes and champions of DMARC in your organizations, even just getting it started. Like I said, you can get DMARC started today with some information that you're going to get here and from my website. I have a worksheet. You can get your SPF records built and your DMARC policy deployed just to start gathering information. Not doing anything to it, just get it out there. There we go. Back on track, I hope. Okay, key question, should you use DMARC, or all these records, should you use these things on all of your domains? Keyword all. Does a one-legged duck swim in circles? Yes, you need to use these records on every single one of your domains, even the ones that don't send. So what happens if you don't use them? No records, it's just an email, it just lands in somebody's inbox. There's no authentication, there's nothing there that tells them that it is actually an authorized email on behalf of you.com. Spoofing is incredibly easy. All I have to do is stand up HMail server on my Windows 10 laptop and send away, fire away, and it goes through right as you. and it looks like you're sending emails to people. So what happens if you add SPF record? You get it mailed by. This little snippet, this is from Gmail, you get it mailed by mrpfd.com. So that's a little bit of authentication. It says that it was from a valid IP address. If you add a DKIM, you get the signed by, mailed by, signed by, challengerteamwear.com, one of the companies I work with. And if you add DMARC, it's still being adopted through all the major providers. Gmail has this little key here. DocuSign is a good example. They have a 100% reject policy. Any message that does not align with their SPF or DMARC records or DKIM records is rejected outright, does not land in somebody's inbox. That's a good thing. That's what we should all be shooting for. And Gmail now includes that little key that says it's authenticated. So how do we get started here? You want to protect yourself from people sending spam as you. SPF. So what you do is you gather a list of your domains, all your domains, including subdomains that send mail. Just write them down. Get a list, Excel spreadsheet, doesn't matter. And the senders. So if you use G Suite, put that on the list. Office 365 on the list. AWS or Amazon SES, MailChimp, any third-party or internal organization unit that sends mail on behalf of your domain or one of your subdomains needs to be on that list. And I can guarantee if you're not a really tiny shop, you're going to miss something. You're going to have to go back and review that. So keep that list. You're going to build an SPF record and publish it. You're going to have to do it again, like I said, so you're going to fix it and send it and republish. It's a public DNS record, so I can look up your SPF record right now if you have one at all. Also, if it's a non-sending domain, it's very simple. It's a null record. V equals SPF1 minus all. Like I said, this is a whitelist. Here is your whitelist. This is who's allowed to send as you. Nobody, right? So if you're a non-sending domain, publish that and you're pretty much done. It's very easy. So what does it look like? You've got the syntax here, version SPF1. The pluses are not necessary. The pluses are assumed. So you're saying include this, allow it, make it pass if it's in here. The only thing you need is like a minus or a neutral. So what this is saying my SPF record says, look at my A record, and whatever IP address or addresses align or are behind that are authorized to send. Everything behind my MX record is allowed to send as me, and this network. And then everything else is a soft fail, which means as it comes through, we're going to take a look at it, and if it looks spammy, we're going to throw it in spam. If it doesn't look spammy, we're going to call it okay. So that really, you should be shooting eventually for a minus all. So anything that's not on this explicit list is no longer authenticated to send mail as you. This will do exactly what you say. If you put a minus all before it's time to do so, that's your minus all, and here's a message from somebody's department that did not tell you they're using SurveyMonkey to send mail. Now none of the surveys are getting delivered because you published a minus all before it was time. Use the soft fail to get started, wait until you've gathered some information, and then go back and fix or update the record. So, real quick lookup. This is DMARCing.com/SPF-survey. Works fantastic. It's a great tool. So, at Challenger Sports, I use a company called BlueTie.com. It's a third-party mail host. Let's see if I can blow this up a little bit. It has 10 DNS querying mechanisms in it. So, as a third-party service provider, they have used all 10 of my lookups. That's not cool. That's real rude. So if you're a mail service provider or you host email services, make sure that you're trimming your SPF record down to a very compact form because it's courteous to people who have only 10 lookups. So if I include spf.bluetie.com, all 10 of my lookups are used for challengersports.com. That's pretty sucky. Now this tool shows me, include spf.bluetie.com, let's make it a little bit bigger. So they're saying IP4, etc. So they're doing a network. And then they say include serverdata.net, include elasticgrid.com, include reflexion.net, include spf.protection.outlook.com. That's a bunch of nested lookups that use up mine. So make sure you're aware of how many lookups there are in your third-party service providers. One of the ways to get around that, again, is to add in subdomains. So you can say surveys.challengersports.com uses SurveyMonkey, etc. So that that subdomain has its own set of lookups. I noticed BSidesKC.org has no SPF record, so that means anybody can send email as them. SecurityBsides.com does have an SPF record, So it allows, it's got 4 lookups, and it allows 239,000 specific IP addresses to send as it. SPF.google.com expands out to this list of IP addresses. Okay, that's SPF in a nutshell. Next, we want to avoid identity crises. Use DKIM to sign your messages. That way, people know it's from you. Again, you're going to reuse that same list of senders from your SPF record setup. Generate your selectors and keys. A selector is like it's an arbitrary thing. It could be 123._DKIM.challengersports.com. It's just a unique identifier for each sender, and then you publish a private or a public key so that they can check it with a public digital signature. That means I'm going to have a different record for G Suite than I do for AWS. So here's an example key. Your selector is anything, ._domain key. Value is V equals DKIM1, and it's an RSA key. Use 2048-bit. There's no reason to use 1024 at this point. If you've got 1024s, go update them. It's not a really hard deal to do. Okay, so now we're on the DMARC. You start with a no action policy. You want to see what's out there, what's going on. And you need, when you do this, you start getting reporting back, you want to make sure that you use the reporting period that covers your actual business cycles through the year. If you have a dead season and you get on this, hey, I can do DMARC now because I'm not busy, and you publish a DMARC record and start gathering information, and there's only 2 sources of mail, and then you lock it down, and then your marketing season hits the next month, you've locked it down and your marketing campaigns just got rejected. So make sure you accommodate your business cycle in your review of DMARC reports. So the host is, for your DNS, _DMARC. The value is V equals DMARC1, P equals none. So you're using DMARC, no policy, just send something back to me. You have to define a send back address like this. RUA equals mail to, and you put whatever address that's going to be. And then you move from no policy to quarantining. Quarantine, you can start at 1%, 5%. That's what gets shoved into the spam folder. And you watch the reports. You want to see how many messages are getting shoved into people's spam folders and make sure they're legit fraud, if that's a thing. Make sure they're actually fraudulent messages that are getting put into the spam folder before you turn it up to 50%, before you turn it up to 75%. Do it gradually or you will break something. I did. I broke about a 40,000 email marketing campaign because I took somebody's word for one of my domains that doesn't send mail. Oh yeah, we don't use that. Okay, fine. So I turned it up and blocked 40,000 messages, and that's a quick turnaround. Oh, gotta fix it. You're gonna ease into rejecting. After you're satisfied with your quarantining, you're quarantining 100% of messages. That means they're going into people's spam folders. Once it's doing that right, you ease into rejecting. You're gonna reject 1%, 5%. Start low, please. Review reports, fix problems. This is going to be where you contact the marketing team and say, hey, look, you said you're only using this and this, but I've noticed that you're also using constant contact. Is that actually you guys, or is some rogue sales guy trying to up his sales by doing private marketing campaigns that are unauthorized? You'll find that sort of stuff depending upon your organization. That's what the reporting's for. You don't necessarily want to break that. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't like that sales guy that's doing that. But you eventually get it up to 100% enforcement. Now, let's look at a sample DMARC record. Real quick, there's more information, a lot more information on the syntax of this record on my website. Version, policy, and reporting address. The only 2 that are required are these 2. The version and the policy. So if it's a non-sending domain and you know 100% that it's a non-sending domain, like you bought it just to reserve, publish your null SPF record and a reject record. V equals DMARC1, policy equals reject. That's all you gotta have. Everything else is optional, and they're not necessarily, they don't have to be in any order. So, this is what happens to a message when you get a little bit too antsy and you hurry things along. You're gonna see an example of a message that should have been delivered successfully, but wasn't, because you'll see these guys push out their policy a little too fast. Here goes the message, there goes the policy, and the message not delivered. Now, here's the policy. They pushed it out way too fast. They should have gathered more information before they pushed it out there. Don't be that email administrator. Take your time, gather reports, and do it right. How do you read the reports? They come back as XML reports at the end of the day. So Google emails challengersports.com's reporting address at the end of the day. Hey, we received 100,000 emails from you. One was from, 50,000 number of marketing emails from this IP address and this IP address, etc. You can create a free account at DMARCian.com. They call themselves DMARCian. But DMARCian.com, there's also Agari and ReturnPath. There are multiple providers for this service. I think I'm going to have to hurry through the quiz here. Read the slides and test yourself. DMARC, the bottom line is, DMARC is concerned with alignment. So if something does not explicitly pass your SPF, it is not aligned. Even if it soft fails, that's not a pass. That means it does not pass SPF for the purposes of DMARC policy application. And if it's unsigned, then it doesn't pass DKIM. So, how can you achieve baller status? Follow me. This is, in the last month, this is a real dashboard pie chart from DMARCian.com. 5.6 million messages have been, this is my total email volume across 40 domains. 5.6 million messages are fraudulent, and they're being blocked. So I'm blocking 99.999% of all fraudulent email because I'm still working on stuff. So my legitimate volume is this green chart, green section, and some of the gray, because there's forwarders that are sending, they're forwarding either legit mail or illegitimate mail, and that's something I got to work on a little bit. But I'm only doing like less than a quarter of all the email that sends from my domains is actually legit. The rest is not, and it's being blocked because I'm using DMARC. Here's another. This is an older. This is a 7-day chart from early March. We've got the daily volume. This is just for one of my domains. 50,000 in one day, 83,000 in the next day. These are fraudulent messages that are not landing in people's inboxes anymore. So what kind of stuff was blocked now that I'm using DMARC? This is a LinkedIn message. All the links pointed, now this is a real story. I went into my DMARC dashboard and looked at the source IPs, and I looked at the pointer lookups of those IP addresses. One of them was glencoeindustries.com. This email was being sent on behalf of, from some other compromised web server. Somebody's server had been compromised and was sending emails as my company. The links in the email, I get this back from forensic reports in DMARC, indicate it's a LinkedIn message, but all these point to glencoeindustries.com, which is a construction company in Florida, /WP content inconsequential.php, which is a redirect to Canadian Healthcare and Mall at Russia, at some .ru website. So Viagra as low as 86 cents. That's not landing in people's inboxes anymore. Now, when I went to glencoeindustries.com just to check the site out, this is all links. Link. So they've got call us. I called. I talked to the owner. I said, hey, did you know that you're, not being rude, but did you know that your domain is being used fraudulently? It's hosting malicious links? He said, no. It hadn't been updated in a year and a half. He's working on getting that fixed right now. So that was like 2 weeks ago that I talked to the guy, but I'm helping other people out too. I also saw that Fresno.gov, so Fresno, California, was sending 4,000 messages in the last couple of weeks on behalf of my domain. They set up a mail campaign wrong. I talked to the coordinator, the athletics coordinator in the city of Fresno. I helped her fix it. So now my guys' messages are landing in people's inboxes instead of not. How am I doing on time?
You got 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
All right, rushing through. Yeah, so some of the links on that page pointed to congratulations, hey, spin the wheel and win an iPhone, more emails that are not being delivered on behalf of my company. So you can check your status, mxtoolbox.com, you can get a free account there, no problem, /domain/your domain. I think I actually want to do my live demo real quick because it's more impactful than me talking. So, BSidesKC has no SPF record and no DMARC record. So what can you do with that?
Whatever you want.
I can send whatever the crap I want. Let's go check my Gmail. After it loads, because Chrome crashed. Here we go, live demo of BSidesKC. Came through on my watch. Let's see what we got. Don't forget to try to spoof us during your presentation so you look extra cool. If it works, we'll pay you to come do it at all the other BSides conferences. Rock on. Click here to register. Thanks. Oh, a ransomware page. People can do this on behalf of your domain right now if you don't have this set up right. So go set it up, go fix it. I can do this all day, and people are doing this all day. To me, now they're getting rejected, but they were doing it for I don't know how long. Sending boner pill ads, etc. No longer happening. Go fix it. And let's wrap this up. Real quick to review, you have to identify your senders and all your domains. Build a list, find their SPF records, create DKIM signatures if you can. Some of them you don't have to. And then build your DMARC record and start gathering information. I should do that. There we go. Monitor and adjust both your SPF and DKIM and DMARC records, and you'll be on your way to protection. This does not fix against idiots. This does not fix phished email accounts. So if I can use one of your users' accounts, it's going to come across as signed, digitally signed messages if you've got DKIM signatures. So it does not stop a phished account from sending mail on behalf of you because that's totally legit. It does not stop legitimate or lookalike domains. It does not stop other domains that look legitimate. This is to protect your domain only. And this is kind of why we need everybody to do it. It does not also stop fraudsters from standing up their own domains and signing messages. They can send authenticated spam. That's where user training comes into play.
Display names. Display names.
Yeah, they can play with display names. There's a ton of resources to click and follow. You can kind of follow my learning path through some of those. I don't have time for questions. Don't contact me for lawsuits. I would like feedback. If you have any questions, you're welcome to follow up with me. I'll be at the chucking shirts. They always chuck them to the front, so. Woo!
Pretty good.
Alright.
Alright, let's take a look for a big talk here. This is really important stuff. DMARC records, email. Just think about how much business we actually do on a day-to-day basis through our email. How much the security